I have a shameless plug. I really, really appreciate you guys listening in some ways to my conversations about identity, but did you know that chatting isn't the only thing I do? I love to paint. And now you can have a bit of my art in your house. It also makes great gifts, by the way. So check it out at aubreyjeanart.etsy.com. That's aubreyjeanart.etsy.com. And also hit me up on Instagram at my handle, aubreyjeanart. I'd love to hear from you. Bienvenidos to 1/32 Cherokee, my podcast exploring why being 1/32 of something is meaningless, and surprisingly not at the same time. I'm your host, Aubrey Jean. This episode is a bonus. I talked with Alice, a local history consultant. She used to help people with genealogy professionally, but now she's a volunteer. I wanted to chat about the challenges of proving Native American ancestry, the challenges she's encountered helping people trace their lines. Before we got recording, Alice inquired if we were registered with the reservation. Before I could answer, she said, "Because if you're not registered, you aren't Cherokee." Bam. That's how I know I'm insecure about something. A comment slams my amygdala, and my brain does this split-second version of a fainting goat. I can't find the documents proving Sarah is Cherokee. I can't find anything on the Dawes roll. We still have the blood, right? Sarah made us. Her blood is in our veins. But if I don't have the paperwork, I'm not Cherokee. I need to be prepared for this. That's why I'm exploring. Enjoy. Hey, I'm a painter, a writer, a musician, and now I'm an anchorman. That's how it works, right? I'm using the Anchor app to make my first podcast, and it is free. There are certain tools that I use to record and edit my podcast, and it's right on my phone or computer, and it distributes my podcast for me so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And I can make money from this podcast, which would be crazy because it's all about my family. But it's everything I need to make a podcast in one place, and you can too. If I can do it, you can. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
If somebody's ancestor can be found on the rolls, usually most often can get good information. But all too often, it's just that family stories have come down the line that, oh yeah, great-great-grandfather was a Cherokee, and there's no proof of it.
That seems uncomfortably familiar. It seems like the Cherokee Nation finally drew a line in the sand, and if your ancestor is not on the Dawes rolls from the mid-1800s, you aren't considered Cherokee. You know, Cherokee have assets that produce money, so they're circumspect regarding who's entitled to those assets, which makes sense.
That's why they're as strong as they are. If you're not recorded, or they are a little bit open to people doing research. I have a friend who was a couple of years ago working on DNA and Indians, and he said it was really, really hard because the Indian tribes did not want to accept DNA proof. This was years ago, so I don't know if it's still true. If I were just, now getting interested and I need to learn about Cherokees, I would go to Cindy's List. Cindy's List, it's a website. Cindy does not do research herself. Cindy does research on where you can do research. Marvelous place to look.
Cindy's List sounds like a great idea to see if other places have records from that era and location. It's not something I just want to give up entirely. There's local evidence to suggest that someone in my direct bloodline didn't just weave a good story. There's other descendants of Sarah whom I don't even know. I just read their comments, and they've also commonly accepted she's Cherokee, and these are descendants from other children that she had. But there's the name on the Dawes roll, the one that connects my grandmother to the reservation she is registered with. That name is the wrong name. The date, the location, her children, her parents, all that information is wrong. So it's the wrong Sarah. That person on the Dawes roll is not our ancestor. It's impossible for our Sarah to be that Sarah. There's another roll that the Cherokee have as well, other than the Dawes roll. It is the eastern branch of Cherokee tribe, the Virginia area, and you can use the Miller roll, but Sarah's name isn't on there either. So I've been wondering, about that. And I've also been wondering why her name is Sarah. Why is her name an English name, Sarah Catherine Wood, and her father's name is Greenberry Wood? That seems weird to me.
I did learn about the Indians that were in Virginia and North Carolina, is that they kept changing their name. The individual people, white people wanted to get all those Indians out of here, type of stuff. Persecution type stuff. Fiddling with land boundaries so that this person had 160 acres. And then the next time they checked, he had 30 acres. What happened? They cheated him with the persecution stuff, with the ethnic slurring stuff. I think a lot of it is the fact that people changed. I hate to say lied, but they adulterated their names. They added or subtracted to their birth dates because they were hiding, avoiding something.
So I'm a little insecure about something. You made a matter of fact comment at the beginning of the episode that if we are not registered, then we're not Cherokee. And you probably don't mean that we don't have Cherokee blood, but I just wanted to clarify.
Cherokees are more well documented. It means you don't have access to the records, probably. It means if you're registered, well, it's like if you're registered, then you're part of them.
Well, we are registered. My grandmother is registered with a reservation, but it's the registration itself that I call into question, because to get registered, the requirement is to have a name on the Dawes roll, and that name is incorrect. And so, I think that the registration that she has is bunk. And it's weird because if the Cherokee Nation it may be that we can't get registered unless we verify we're registered. We verify we're registered via records, but we don't have access to those records unless we're registered. So my family is living in this weird catch-22. But really, the registration isn't the goal for me. The goal for me is, can I claim this? Should I be talking about it? Do I have any sort of connection through this to my grandma? Does my grandma have any sort of connection through this to her dad? And does her dad have that connection to Sarah? And so my grandmother has this identity, and I've inherited it because I've lived around her for so long, and many of her siblings are still alive and they have this identity. So it's interesting how our family history has been shared with each generation, and how our family history shapes our own identity because of these shared stories.
I'm hearing in your voice that you care for your grandmother. It's not just this is a name on a piece of paper that I'm researching. This is somebody I care about, and that makes a difference. Have you been many generations back into somebody's home and stood in the ancestral home? There's a feeling. My maiden name is Colby, and at one time I was the president of the Colby Family Association. The ancestral home is still there from 1654 in Amesbury, Massachusetts. And it's still standing there. And about every 5 years, we have a family reunion there. You got people on the outside eating their picnic lunch and having a good time and fooling around. And then you go inside, and there's a difference. There's a feeling. It matters.
I agree. There's this really special spirit when we are connected to our ancestors. It's an intangible connection, and it's hard to explain. But we have this inherent desire to be with our families across cultures, across borders. It seems ubiquitous in human nature. And it's part of our journey on planet Earth. It's centered around family and connection. 132nd Cherokee with Aubrey Jean, and with all the favors I can cash in. Produced by me, Aubrey. Executive produced by nobody, because I don't know what that means. The Anchor app by Spotify holds my hand for all the engineering. The music is also found on Anchor. You can rate and review this show on many podcast platforms someday, and you might find your review featured on a future episode, or I might burn it in effigy. Got comments? Send me a message at anchor.fm/Aubrey-Jean. That's anchor.fm/Aubrey-Jean.